Hello, everybody. Welcome back to an episode of Relationship Wednesday. I pray that last week's episode was informative, maybe give you some perspective, maybe give you something to think about. I'm trusting that the Holy Spirit maybe give you some other ways of looking at the losses we take in life through my situation and others or whatever. So that's our prayer. But anyway, we're going to jump back into it. We're going to let Mike pick back up on his question he asked last week, and then we'll keep it moving from there.
All right. So the question at hand is, if I can remember, the individual. I think I was talking from the standpoint of not being able to deal with the loss and how it can affect the other people in your life. Like, how are you able to move on and live a fruitful life when, this was it, family member, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sibling lost a sibling, parents lost a child, but the sibling felt as if I lost a sibling and a parent because my parent was still dealing with the hurt of losing the child. So how, from both standpoints, how do you speak to the person who's like, it's not fair? I don't know where to go from here. And I got something that I can add as well, but just being in this, because it's relatable, right? Like, how do you speak to the people who are dealing with the loss? How can we actually, like, it's always like you got to find the silver lining, right? But at times it can be very hard to find the silver lining in the loss of somebody that I love dearly, right? And that maybe it was unexpected and it wasn't supposed to go the way it did. So how do we deal with those emotions?
So, man, okay. So I'll say this. Me saying this because I guess I do know when people are in that mental space, and I'm gonna tell you, emotions a lot of times can control the way we think and the way we process situations. And sometimes, if you're not feeling the way they feel like you have no compassion and no understanding, and you can come off very judgmental and hard.
Yeah.
So let me just preface by saying that first, because I do get that, because a lot of times, and this is where I'm saying, is that what I realized in those situations is, in my mind, you can't cater to those emotions. In other words, we have to figure out how to not be a victim to what's going on. And a lot of times we are placating to the victim mentality. I lost this person. What am I going to do? Like, I guess, as sometimes I know it sounds hard, and I know it sounds insensitive, and I've been there, but to me, it's more like, and people may not see it the same way, but this is the way I see it. And you may disagree, it's fine. Is that you go on the battlefield, your partner gets killed, and you know, and it hurts, but you're still on the battlefield of life. So it's like you got to suck it up and find a way to push through it, because there's a battle of life you're still fighting. And I can't get caught up in the intricacies of how, we went out here planning to come home from this battle together. And it didn't happen. And I have to, more and cry after the fact, had those moments. But even after that, there's going to be other wars that may have to be fought of life, other things. So I still got to live my life. And so my whole thing is, no, it wasn't what I wanted. But I can't sit here and become a victim to how things played out.
Sure.
So me trying to communicate that to somebody, sometimes it depends on who's willing to accept it and who's not willing to accept it. So to me, it just comes down to the individual who's willing to process it and say, yes, it hurts, but I'm gonna find a way to still move on. Or those people who say, no, I'd rather be a victim and pretty much stay here and live in my pain. Like, I can't really win or come out and still find a way to still live life after this.
It's crazy because another insensitive way to look at it or say is the truth, but it hurts because life moves on with or without you.
Yeah.
And like, you can stay there and allow 2 lives to be affected, or I like to say, it's a quote I heard: "To be immortal is to live in the hearts of the ones you leave behind."
Mm-hmm.
Or you can take what you've learned from that person, the good times, the things that they were really solid in, like whatever superpower they have, and you can attach that to you and allow them to live through you. And that's personally, that's how I deal with loss, right? I had a couple kids who worked out on the hill with me, and 2 of them passed away. And oddly enough, it was like car accidents. But one of them, when like talking to the family, like he was always the life of the party,
Mm-hmm.
right? He was always dancing. And I'm not a dancer, but now every time the family gets together, I dance because he used to dance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I allow, him to still live on
Right.
through me, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
another one, he just he didn't care. And I normally don't care about what people think, but there's always a time like, I'm about to go bald, by the way, 40, I'm cutting it all off. But my hair, right? So with the chemo, the middle of my hair grows back very slow. I got fine hair up here. My real hair is this, but the chemo did this to me.
Mm-hmm.
And he had like hair, and sometimes he would like not get it done, and he just be out. Like he ain't care what nobody does. Like I'm gonna take that. So I'm gonna just, my hair is whatever it is, what it is. But at the same time, it's like, and I was telling Sister Michelle today, my uncle passed away last week. His funeral was Friday. The big thing I do is allow the pain that sets in. I don't allow it to go to a negative space. I use it for something good. So I went to the gym on Saturday. I didn't even know I was gonna cry at the funeral, but I was up in early morning, beer man, but I was crying, right?
Yeah.
So I was still feeling that the next day. So I'm in the gym, and it was a weight that I normally wouldn't do in this moment, and I was like, well, let me just use that to get this weight up. And I said, let's do it. And so I started to think about my uncle, and I started to think about how he doesn't have the opportunity to live anymore, but I do. So I'm not going to waste the opportunity I have. I'm going to live for him. I'm going to use whatever pain I'm dealing with in this moment to get this weight up. And I literally mentally was not ready, but once I made that switch and I started to talk to my uncle, I was like, cool, let's go. And then I tricked my mind into believing, like, and I do some weird stuff with my mind. If I get this rep, he'll come back. like real talk. When I put 500 on my back like a month ago, and you remember my little cousin Sean who passed away.
Yes.
In my mind, I was like, if you get this, Sean will be here tomorrow. And I'm like, oh yeah, there's no way I'm not gonna get it. So I'll be crazy, but I'll use whatever pain that I need to use to make the situation where I am a better situation. And I think at times we don't allow ourselves to use the good times for the people that we lost, and we kind of just like think about they're not here no more, right? And that's understandable. But can we pull the good out of it and then use that? Or even if we are thinking like, damn, they're not here, and there is pain or frustration there, can I use it to make something better in my life happen? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So let me say it to you like this.
I'm crazy.
To what you're talking about. And this is for me. Everything is about perspective.
Sure.
Even death of loved ones. Like for example, I've seen people where the parents or grandparents lived into their 90s, and they still cried at the
Yeah.
or some people be like, yeah, crying, but it's not a big thing because I feel like they lived a good life. So it was like they were willing to accept it because of the way.
Sure.
So that's why I began to learn, just studying people, that a lot of times it's the way, what you still needed from them in your season, all those type of things. Like again, it's internal things that people are working through. And so for me, it's like back to what you were saying. This is now going back to the whole thing with Abraham and all that. So you had Isaac and Ishmael. So Hagar was Ishmael's mother. So Sarah said that, she feeling herself, her and the son got to leave. He messed with Isaac, and so Abraham sent Hagar into the desert, Hagar and Ishmael. So God promised that they'll be blessed and be fruitful and all that. So she goes into the desert and she cries out to God, and it says that, Lord, you're gonna live. This is what this house gonna be. We're gonna die out here, that type thing.
Yeah.
So, and it says that, and he told Hagar, he said, open your eyes. There's a well of water right there that y'all can drink from. But the problem was she couldn't see the water because of the water in her eyes.
Tough. Ooh.
A lot of times we're so full of our hurt, we can't see what's next.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times that's what happens. And I'm saying that's what you're saying. And the way I take it, that's where I had to take it. Yeah, I can be so filled up with the water of my mother's loss that I don't even see God's next. And what I had to realize is that I got to take the water out my eyes so I can see what God wanted. Because again, if he's Jehovah Jireh, back to the believer's perspective, then that means that you have an oasis there. But I got to take the water out my eyes to see where you're going to fill in what was lost.
Right.
But that's required trusting in what I don't know on the other side of the water. The loss I'm feeling right now. And so these are the things I had to understand in order to move, through that whole thing. Yeah, because again, like on one side, yeah, sure, I'd love my mother to be there when I got married and talked about, and be for my kids to know their grandmother and all that, and you know what I mean. You see, yeah, you can see all that. But I'm saying, but God's still faithful. God can still fill in what was lost because he's Jehovah Jireh.
Which is why you say you don't know how people do it without having a relationship with God.
There you go.
Yeah. And also, it seems as though, well, not seem, but when you said people who, parents live to 100, like, yeah, they live a good life, like they can accept it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's others who just can't accept it. So it boils down to, can you get your acceptance right, whether they were young, old, and I think once you accept the fact that, it happened, and it's time to move on, then that helps you, like, not turn, like, of course you're not going to forget about them, but if you can, like, accept the fact that yes, it happened, yes, it hurt, and I'm not even saying, the timeline on it, like, have your moment of grieving, whatever, however long.
Right, and you have to, right, you got to, like, it's like going to a doctor. You can't get cut and not treated because it could get infected.
Right.
So it's okay to grieve and all that, but just grieve right so it can be treated properly, so it can be a stepstone where you can go forward.
And grieving right is?
Grieving right is where I accept it. However, cry my good cry. I process it. It's okay, having that season.
Yeah.
But it's all part of sort of like my healing process. In other words, I'm not crying to stay here the rest of my life. I'm crying here to process it in my own way so I can be able to now, I call it like reconcile the file. This is the thing, I think Rico did it for the first time. We ever happened, back in the day, they used to call these things computers defrag. He was the first one where I guess to file something, something you do where the computer has to sort of like reset, like take out the bad and put in the new. And I think grieving is sort of like that. You're going to have to go in and start rearranging, and every place of pain, you got to put something good on it. Every place of pain, I got to put something good on it. Like I'm kind of defragging the loss so I can shift my mind. So while I'm grieving, I got to put a Thanksgiving on something. So for example, like, man, I remember one time I was thinking, I said, I would love a mother to be around for another 20 years. And then the next thought, well, she's not. So what are you going to do? So then I said, well, the way I can process it, I have to thank God for the time that we had.
Yeah.
So in other words, that was like defragging. In other words, I took something I felt like I was lost and I put a Thanksgiving on it.
Yeah.
And say, okay, well, I can't sit here and meditate on what's not going to be, but I can find a way to celebrate what was. Like, and what did she leave behind? She left behind the lessons, the teachings, this and that. Because think about it, we read about dead people all the time, in the sense of natural. Paul, he the scriptures. We read about Moses, David,
Yeah.
all these people, but they gone. But what happened? Their life is living on
Through you.
through you, through their stories, through their revelations, through their knowledge.
And then I feel as though it can add to your purpose as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, and so glad you brought that up. So that was another thing I had to do that got me through it. Was I said, all right. My mother told me. She said, I want you to fulfill your purpose. So which means, which I believe in eternity, and then I'm gonna see her again from an accountability standpoint. So when I see it, am I going to say, did you cry and do nothing for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
Or did you fulfill what God told you to do?
Right.
And I don't want to go before her and be like, well, I was so upset at you going on, I decided to stop living and just stay right here and all that kind of stuff. It basically says, so I live my life and imparted the things to you for you to not do anything with it. I feel like that's one of the greatest blessings you can give your loved ones who moved on.
Sure.
Is let their life lessons live on through you.
Yeah. I've seen like foundations. We've all seen it, like foundations being built, and more people benefiting from one person's ability to say, you know what, I'm not going to let your story in here, and I'm going to create something that can help other people, whether it's helping people grieving through, finding purpose within their loss, or it's helping people who may have passed in a certain way, bring light to, or like show people how not to go a certain direction, whether it's something where like car accidents or doing things you shouldn't be doing, right? Just bringing light to the reason their loved one might have went away, and how we can make sure other people are informed properly. Because the race we run is always somebody that's going to be following us footsteps. Like, you're not going to be the first or the last to go through what you went through, and the person coming behind you has to know, like, yo, so how do I get through it? So being able to say, look, this is how I did it. It may not work for you, but maybe you can take something out of what I'm leaving you to help you get through this journey, which is what I do with people battling cancer. Like, you might not do it the way I did it, but at least you know it's possible.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So we'll conclude with this here, and I say, and from my standpoint is that yes, losing loved ones is hard sometimes, and case by case, some are harder than others. It hurts, and it can sting real good, and sometimes it can really, like when my mother passed, this part of this thing was my God concepts, which we talked about.
Yeah.
And part of this thing was because I thought God let us down.
Yep.
So I'm saying, there's so many layers to sometimes losing people, sometimes where we feel like way out of season and way before it's time.
Yeah.
And it's like, but God is still bigger than all of it. So which means that we can still come out of all of it. It's just that some just seem more possible just because of how we're feeling in the moment and the state of the hurt that we're feeling. Sometimes it can feel impossible, and I do understand that. So that's why I always try to be mindful that I'll never tell somebody, well, just get over it, and it's been 2 years or this and that. Like, my whole thing is more of, it's take the time that you need, but maximize your time though. Like, you know what I'm saying? Take your time, but in your process, however long that takes, just take your steps to heal though. That's my thing, because I can never you can't put a time. To me, it's like if you reset a bone, you can't put a timeline on from this person, that person, meaning that it just depends on every situation is different, on how well, because as an athlete, it takes sometimes a little longer to heal, the body to heal, than when you're younger. So every scenario is different. But I'm saying at least just reset the bone so that way the process healing can start. However time that takes for you, that takes, because I do get it, because I believe that all healings and healings of loved ones, to me, it's a God thing, because one of the ministries of the Holy Spirit, he's our comforter. What does the comforter do? He helps you heal in these moments. And so I feel like all these things that you're going to need, it's going to take God really, in some things, to mend those wounds of that, or feel the sting of that loss.
There's I think what you talked about with God let me down, I think we need to go there. Now I know we run out of time here, but I think that is, even if people don't say it, I think subconsciously the theology, that God theology we talk about, like, nah man, I prayed, I did this, I did that, and it still ain't. I think we need to go there, because if people don't understand that the way they see God is off, then now the way they live will be like, you won't be able to trust them, because you think you will be, but in the back of your mind you think it's God's fault. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's why I'm so big on that, because I've learned over the years of this, my own experiences working with people and just spending time in the Word, all collectively. I realize that a lot of times is have a relationship with God don't shield us from pain, but the way we relate to God will control how we heal, or even if we will heal or not.
So it's a joke my boy used to make, but this is how most people think. Like, God's in control. He'd be like, man, God dirty, bro. He used to be like, nah, yeah, God dirty. We ain't make it to the league. And it's like, bro, most people think that God is in control, so anything that doesn't happen, I gotta blame him because it's his fault. I trusted him. But what they don't understand is the God in you that you're not operating in, which is why life isn't going the way it's expected. But the cop-out is, well, it wasn't God's will.
Mm-hmm.
But if all things are possible to those who believe, I like dancing on toes, because most people scared. And they scared to say that I'm like God. They scared to say that I can do all things through Christ. And then when things don't happen, it wasn't God's will. Maybe, I don't know why God is trying to teach, like, nah, bro. So we gonna go there, because I got a lot of people.
So I would say, once we get through the holidays, let's come back in January, and we can unpack that some more, because I do plan on talking to a couple other people and how they process their losses, and just to help other people out. Yeah. But then after that, maybe we can come back in January sometime and really just take some time and really just unpack that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that'd be some good stuff. You be, as I say, this good stuff, like we be dealing with, like those with the messy part of ministry, the stuff, the stuff men be dealing with in silence and stuff. All those type of things. That's good stuff. But anyway, that's what I say. God bless everybody again. Relationship Wednesday. Remember, it's about after we did. In other words, it's learning how to manage life's hurts and challenges. So that's why we call it Relationship Wednesday, after we did. Amen. So God bless you all. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and we will see you here next Wednesday. God bless you.
Thank you for joining Pastor Wayne Powell Sr. for this edition of Relationship Wednesday. We hope you enjoyed this episode of After I Did. Let's keep the conversation going by leaving your questions and comments in the chat. We also invite you to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you are reminded to join us next Wednesday as Pastor Wayne continues this discussion of After I Did.